Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of MSATP TV. Joining us today is Barbara Smith, our illustrious president, and she's going to be talking about her classes coming up this fall on payroll issues and 1099s. So, Barbara, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's been going on this year, and then we'll get into your payroll class.
Okay, well, again, my name is Barbara Smith. I live in the beautiful town of Chincoteague, which is actually located in the state of Virginia just by a little bit. But I started my practice in Ellicott City, Maryland, where I had lived for 25 years before we technically retired and moved to this wonderful location. I feel like I'm living in paradise. And it was especially nice during the pandemic because there weren't a lot of people around. So the island pretty much shut down and we were all protected. So our COVID cases were not too bad here on the island. Now this year we're seeing an increase in the visitors to the island. So it's been wonderful. The summers are beautiful, time on the beach. Everybody needs to come visit me at some point. But I do come back to your area where 80% of my clients are still in Ellicott City and Columbia. So I do come back about once or twice a month. It's a short 3-hour drive.
Right, exactly. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the upcoming payroll class that you have, and also the 1099 employees. And are you going to be covering ERC in your class?
Actually, yes. The payroll class is designed as an update. I took it over from Phyllis, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, who taught it for many, many, many years. And I always started with a little joke about me being a payroll expert, because we all know payroll is very rule intensive. So it's hard to know it all with payroll. And every time someone calls me the payroll expert, I cringe a little bit. I think, do I really deserve that title? But I've been working in my own practice for over 30 years, and you learn a lot as you go along. So what we try to do with the payroll class, Bill, is update everyone for the changes for the year. And as all of you know, the past 2 years have been very payroll intensive. We went from the 1099 miscellaneous to a new form, 1099 NEC. That's kind of old news. We totally revamped the W-4 form, and I'm sure a lot of people are still working on trying to get comfortable with that new W-4 form. And of course, ERC is the hottest topic. We did host a special class on that last May, I believe.
Yes, yes, it was.
So we went through intensive, and we may reactivate that course, though there are updates that need to be made. I'll be mostly handling the updates in the class in December. And of course, it's changing literally on a daily basis. 2 weeks ago, the IRS released their third notice on the ERC 2021-49. And we'll talk a little bit about that. It was very confusing, the implications of that notice. There are also changes in the infrastructure bill, which the Senate passed last night, now is going to the House, and then needs to be signed by the president. So we'll see there is a possible change in the ERC coming about as a result of that bill, but we have to see if it actually makes it and gets passed into the final form. So basically the payroll class is a quick run through of the major rules, but more intended as an update. If you're a payroll novice, I encourage you to get out and find maybe a novice class before you come to this one. This is more for professionals who've been doing payroll for, at least maybe 3 years, and need an update of what's changed over the last year or two.
Now, is there any changes that that you see in the future for next year that you'll be addressing in your class?
Well, I do try to look in my crystal ball and warn people of things coming down the pike. But
Sure.
again, that's a crystal ball. So, like I said, there have been so many changes in the last 2 or 3 years to payroll. That information takes up most of the class. I will
Uh-huh.
try if I can to predict anything else coming along. And I try to give tips on safety because you're dealing with really sensitive information when you've got payroll. So I usually try to go through some ideas on how to safeguard that information.
Uh-huh. Now, I noticed that yesterday Bob Jennings sent out an email about the changes to the ERC, and it was quite a lengthy email yesterday. And so people should really subscribe to a service like his or someone else's so that you stay up to date on these different things. Um, Bob.
Absolutely. You know what, Bill, let me just say for a moment, his newsletters, which he sends out every week, are packed with a lot of really good information. So yes, you should subscribe to his newsletter, but also I got to put in a plug for our new member benefit.
That's where I was headed with that one.
So Bob Jennings gets probably, what did he say, 700 questions a month from all of us by email. And at some point, I guess about 3 years ago, he realized he couldn't answer all 700. He was trying to, because he's very anxious to be sure that all of our questions are answered. And he likes to respond promptly to people as a result of the seminars. But it just got overwhelming. And one of the fellows in his office said, gee, why don't we do a question and answer? And so he launched this a couple of years ago. I subscribed, and wow, what a lot of valuable information. Now, he does stress that it's not a final, that you need to do your own research, that it's more guiding you in the right direction. But of course, we all know, at least me, I know I treasure my affiliates, my colleagues, not only in the MSATP, but in all over, that I can call with a question. In fact, my phone a friend is my most favorite number on my phone. I came up with one this morning, if someone sells a rental property in Virginia and they're a Maryland resident, they have to pay Virginia tax. Now, because I was a long-term Maryland CPA, I knew that in Maryland, yes, they're going to withhold tax if you're an out-of-state resident. But I'm not sure about Virginia, and I couldn't find the answer quickly. So anyway, back to the Q&A. This is a new member benefit for our members at the special price of $162, which, let me just tell you, that's because it's our 62nd year since we've been around. That's how we picked that price to launch it this year. The normal price, I think, is $20 a month or $200 a year. So you get a pretty nice discount. And Bob goes through about 15 questions that have been sent to him. And usually he tries to pick the ones that a lot of people are asking. So if I have a question, I'm sure somebody else out there is asking the same question. And I've learned quite a bit by listening to that. In fact, I think he said in one office, people were watching it at lunch, that they had a regular weekly lunch and watched the questions and then discussed the answers or the approaches to the answers. Because we all know it's not all, taxes aren't cut and dried, as you would think. For me, because I now travel back to Maryland and it's a 3-hour drive, I'm always listening to Bob, and I will actually listen to several sessions again, just so that I pick up on the answers and able to get it in my brain. So it's a wonderful, wonderful benefit. And I hope a lot of people recognize the value and subscribe.
Right. Well, I've been a long time subscriber to Bob's program, and it's truly been an eye-opening experience for me over the years. Um, I don't do a lot of farm clients and things like that. I never have, and but yet I came across one who was a dairy farmer, and and it was a part-time type operation. It wasn't full-time for the lady. Um, it wasn't her full-time job. It was just a sideline. But I still needed to know the rules, and I could go back into his Q&A and get some information about farms and things like that, so I could try to help her out and understand that I knew enough that I shouldn't be touching that, and I referred her to somebody else, because it's supposed to be for the benefit of the client, not for our benefit. So the best thing I could do was recommend that she go to somebody who does more farms. But that's the advantage of subscribing to a service such as this, is you have the opportunity to go back and look over past things and gain some knowledge. And I can't speak highly enough about Bob and his program with this. So I hope a lot of our members who are listening in decide to join and take advantage of this, because it truly is a wonderful member benefit.
Right. And he also will allow us to send in our questions. So if
Right.
you're like me, I was ready to send him a pretty long email with my questions about the ERC. And then he came out with his newsletter, which answered quite a bit of them. So make sure to go back and look at those newsletters. But
Right.
the question Q&A is another very, very valuable benefit.
Yes, it is. So why don't you get back and tell us a little bit more about your payroll 1099 class? Is there anything that's really changed on the 1099 front that we need to be aware of?
Not for 2021, or at least not yet.
No,
We're
okay.
only we're only 8 months into this year, and they, as we know, they can make changes well past my payroll class. In fact, when they were the first year I taught, it was the year that the W-4 was revised, and that the final form actually came out the day I had to put the manual to printing. So I still had a draft W-4, but what I try to do, that Phyllis created this amazing payroll manual that's about 300 pages. And we give you that manual, not only in the print form, but also in the PDF, so that it's searchable, so that you can find the information you need pretty quickly. There aren't, other than the ERC update, they're really in the process of looking at forms and making changes. So what I do, I wait until November to write the manual so that I get up to the date latest information. And that's usually when they're putting out the drafts for the forms for the next year. And that'll give me an idea of any, major changes, and I'll go
Gotcha.
through those. Of course, I think last year what happened, there were 3, count them, 3 changes to the form 941 because of the FFCRA and the ERC. So in last year's course, I walked you through what was the form, what was the first revision, what was the second revision, and then of course they came out with the 3rd revision after my course was taught. But I try to give you the most up-to-date information that I can, so that you can approach the next year with a lot of knowledge.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Barbara, for joining us today. We look forward to your class this fall, and I hope a lot of people will be attending. And remember, we have this member benefit now, so you can call the office to subscribe to the tax speaker question and answer, and gain a lot of valuable insight. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now the live class, it'll be live this year, but I think we'll have the option to have it live and as a webinar. Live will be again at Turf Valley, right? In Ellicott
Right.
City.
Yes.
So I hope to see everybody there. It'll be nice to finally be able to hug people again, right?
Right, exactly. I'm looking forward to it. And we have upcoming classes in Frederick that are going to be live. So that's really the first of our fall seminars that'll be live. So I'm looking forward to seeing people there too.
And that's in September, not too far away, right? About a month
Right,
away.
exactly. About a month away.
So
We're looking
get in
forward
there
to
and
it.
sign up for the classes. We'd love to see everybody at our seminars.
Yes, we
Or
would.
won't Frederick be also virtual?
Frederick will also be virtual. So
Right.
if you're uncomfortable attending a live seminar, we will be offering that 2-day seminar as a webinar. And then, you sign up for the way that you're the most comfortable with.
Right.
But we would love to see you in person.
Yeah, it's a new world. Let's
Yes, it
end
is.
this pandemic. I'm ready to get back out there and interact with people.
Right, exactly. All right, well, thank you. You have a great day, Barbara.
Thank you. You too, Bill. Bye.
Bye.